The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was silent. 147 species sat in their designated seats. Their eyes were fixed on the center platform where Ambassador of the Empire stood tall and proud. His gray skin shone under the lights. His 4 eyes looked at the council members with clear disrespect. "We have made our decision," said. His voice was cold like space itself. "The Empire will expand into Sector 7. The creatures who call themselves humans will bow to our rule, or they will be destroyed." A wave of whispers spread through the hall. Council members looked at each other with worry on their faces. Some shook their heads. Others covered their eyes with their hands or tentacles or whatever body parts they had. Elder of the People rose from his seat. He was old. His blue skin had turned pale with age. He had seen many wars in his 800 years of life. He had watched empires rise and fall like waves in an ocean, but he had never seen anything like the humans. "Ambassador," Elder said slowly, "I must ask you to reconsider. The Galactic Council has spent much time studying the humans. We have watched them for 200 of their years. We have seen what they can do. We have seen what they become when they are pushed." Laughed. It was a harsh sound that echoed in the Great Hall. "You fear these weak creatures. The Empire has conquered 4,000 worlds. We have crushed species far more advanced than these humans. They are children. They have only been traveling among the stars for 3 centuries. What could they possibly do against us?" "That is exactly what the collective said," spoke a new voice. It belonged to High Speaker of the Federation. She was small in size but great in wisdom. Her silver eyes never blinked as she looked at the ambassador. They were powerful. They had warships that could destroy moons. They attacked the human colony on 9. "I have not heard of the collective," said with a wave of his hand. "Exactly," A replied. "No one has heard of them anymore because they no longer exist. The humans erased them from the galaxy in less than 10 of their years. Every ship, every station, every colony, gone. They refused to surrender, so the humans made sure they would never threaten anyone again." His 4 eyes narrowed, but he did not show fear. They did not know fear. They had forgotten it long ago after so many easy victories. "Stories," he said. "Legends created to frighten others. They do not believe in ghost stories." Elder stepped closer to the center platform. His old bones made sounds as he moved, but his voice was strong when he spoke. "Ambassador, I have lived for 800 years. In all that time, I have never warned any species about another the way I warn you now. The humans are different. They are not like us. They are not like anyone." "Different how?" asked. His tone was mocking. "Do they have stronger ships, better weapons? Our scientists have studied their technology. It is crude, simple, built from basic materials. Our weapons are 500 years ahead of theirs." "Their technology is not what makes them dangerous," said. He sat back down in his seat because his legs were tired. "It is what is inside them, their minds, their spirits, their will to survive." The Great Hall fell silent again. Everyone waited to hear what the elder would say next. "Let me tell you about the humans," continued. "They come from a world that tried to kill them every day of their existence. Their planet is covered in water that they cannot breathe. Their land has deserts that burn and ice fields that freeze. Their world shakes and opens up to swallow them. Fire falls from their mountains. Storms tear across their surface with enough power to flatten cities." He paused and looked directly at, and yet they survived. They did not just survive. They conquered. They became the dominant species on a world that was determined to destroy them. They did this without the help of anyone, without technology given by elder races, without guidance from the stars. They crawled out of caves and built machines that took them to other worlds. Another council member spoke up. This was director of the Scientific Institute. He was known across the galaxy for his knowledge and research. "Ambassador, my institute has studied human biology extensively. What we found disturbs us greatly. The humans are persistence hunters. Do you know what that means?" shook his head slightly. It means they do not catch their prey quickly like most predators. Instead, they follow their prey. They walk after it, hour after hour, day after day, until the prey simply collapses from exhaustion. The prey runs and runs, but no matter how fast it goes, when it stops to rest, the human is still coming, always coming, never stopping. Director pressed a button on his device. A holographic image appeared in the center of the hall. It showed the internal structure of a human body. "Look at this," he said. "Their bodies are built for endurance beyond anything we have seen. They can survive injuries that would kill any other species. They can lose limbs and continue fighting. They can function with poisons in their blood that would destroy our nervous systems. They consume a plant called coffee that is toxic to most species, and they drink it every morning because it makes them more alert. They are biological weapons," added A. "But that is not the worst part. The worst part is their minds." She stood up and walked to join the elder near the center. "Humans form bonds with others stronger than any species we know. When you threaten one human, you threaten all humans. They do not think of themselves as individuals when danger comes. They become one organism with billions of parts, and every part is willing to die to protect the whole." Was growing impatient. He had listened to enough of these warnings. The Empire had made its decision. Nothing these weak council members said would change that. "You talk of them as if they are gods," he said. "They are flesh and blood like the rest of us. They can be killed." "Yes," Elder agreed. "They can be killed, but that is when they become truly dangerous, because when humans die, other humans remember. They do not forget. They do not forgive. They pass down their anger from generation to generation. They build monuments to their dead and swear oaths of revenge over their graves." He leaned forward in his seat. "They killed 30,000 humans in their first attack, just 30,000 out of billions. A small number, insignificant, but the humans did not see it that way. They saw 30,000 murdered brothers and sisters. They saw 30,000 reasons to destroy the completely." Crossed his arms over his chest. His gray skin seemed to darken with annoyance. "The Empire is not the collective. We have 3 billion soldiers. We have ships that can crack planets open like eggs. We have weapons that can burn entire solar systems. What can humans do against that?" "Everything," said a quiet voice from the back of the hall. Everyone turned to look. A small figure walked forward. It was Ambassador Wei, the human representative to the Galactic Council. She was short compared to most species. Her black hair was tied back from her face. Her eyes were dark and calm like deep water. "Everything," she repeated. "We can do everything against that." She walked to the center platform and stood facing. She was half his size, but she did not look afraid. "Ambassador," she said, "I have been listening to my colleagues warn you about my species. They have told you about our biology, our psychology, our history. But let me tell you something they cannot tell you because they have never experienced it." She paused and looked around the great hall at all the different species watching her. "Humans do not want war," she continued. "We truly do not. We have had enough of it on our own world. We have killed millions of our own kind in conflicts over land, over resources, over beliefs. We know the cost of war better than any species here because we have paid it in our own blood for thousands of years." Her voice grew harder. "But because we have fought so many wars, we have become very good at it. We have developed strategies and tactics and weapons that were designed to destroy ourselves, and we are much more dangerous than any alien species." She took a step closer too. He did not step back, but something in his eyes flickered. "If you attack our colonies," Wei said, "we will defend them. If you kill our people, we will mourn them, and then we will come for you. Not just your soldiers, not just your ships. We will come for your empire itself, your cities, your worlds, your history, your future. We will not stop until the name is nothing but a warning whispered in the dark corners of the galaxy." The great hall was completely silent. "This is not a threat," Wei said. This is a promise, and humans keep their promises. Stared at her for a long moment. Then he laughed again, but this time the laughter sounded less certain. Strong words from a small creature, he said. But words cannot stop warships. The Empire will proceed with its expansion. Your colonies in Sector 7 have 3 standard months to surrender and accept our rule. If they do not, they will be destroyed. He turned and walked toward the exit. His guards followed close behind him. Elder called out after him, "Ambassador, please, we have given you our warning. The Council will record this day. Let history show that you were warned." Stopped at the doorway. He turned his head slightly but did not look back. "History is written by the winners," he said, "and they always win." Then he was gone. The great hall erupted in voices. Species talked to each other in worried tones. Many looked at Ambassador Wei with sympathy in their eyes. They believed they were looking at a woman whose people were about to be destroyed. But Wei did not look worried. Her face was calm and still. She walked back to her seat and sat down quietly. High Speaker approached her. "Ambassador Wei, I am sorry. We tried to warn them, but they are too proud, too confident in their power." Wei looked up at the leader. A small smile appeared on her lips. "Do not be sorry," she said. "We have prepared for this day. We have hoped it would never come, but we have prepared. They believe they are starting a war of conquest." She stood up and gathered her materials. "They are wrong. They are starting a war of survival, their survival." She began to walk toward the exit. Then she stopped and looked back at the council. For 200 years, humanity has been building, learning, preparing. We have studied every species in this galaxy. We have learned their strengths and weaknesses. We have developed weapons you cannot imagine and strategies you would not believe. Her smile faded. We did this because we knew this day would come. Some empire would look at us and see weakness. They would see our short lives and our young civilization. They would see prey. She shook her head slowly. "We are not prey. We have never been prey. And they are about to learn what happens when you hunt a human." She walked out of the great hall without another word. The council members watched her go. Then they turned to each other with fear in their eyes, not fear for the humans. Fear of what was coming. 3 months later, the Empire launched its invasion. They sent 500 warships to Sector 7. They expected to crush the human colonies in a matter of days. They were wrong. The first fleet arrived at the human colony world of New Hope. It was a small planet with a population of only 8 million people. The commander, War Master OK, expected the humans to surrender immediately when they saw his fleet blocking out their sun. Instead, a single human ship flew out to meet them. It was tiny compared to the massive warships. It looked like a speck of dust floating in space. War Master OK opened communications with the small ship. A human female appeared on his screen. She was young, with short brown hair and eyes the color of Earth's seas. "I am Captain Sarah Martinez of the United Human Navy," she said. "You are in violation of sovereign human space. You have one chance to turn your ships around and leave. If you do not, we will destroy you." OK laughed so hard that his officers had to look away in embarrassment for him. "One ship threatens 500, he said. "Human, your bravery is admirable, but your intelligence is lacking. Surrender now and we will make your deaths quick." Captain Martinez did not react to his words. Her face remained calm. "I am going to give you something, War Master," she said. "Something the Galactic Council gave you. Something you ignored." "And what is that?" OK asked, still amused. "A warning," she replied. "You should not have come here. You should have listened to the council, but you did not. And now you will learn why they told you not to challenge humans." She leaned forward slightly. "Survival is not guaranteed." Then she ended the transmission. OK ordered his weapons to lock onto her tiny ship. Before they could fire, something happened that no had ever seen before. Space itself seemed to tear open. Hundreds of human ships came pouring through the opening. They were not like the small craft that had greeted the. These were warships, real warships, ships built for one purpose only. War. They had believed human technology was primitive. They had been wrong. The humans had hidden their true capabilities. They had played weak while building strength. Now the galaxy was about to see what humans could do when they stopped pretending. The Battle of New Hope lasted only 4 hours. When it was over, 378 ships had been destroyed. The rest fled back to space with tailies of human weapons that could cut through shields like they were not there. Human ships that could appear and disappear at will. Human soldiers who fought with a fury that made even the most battle-hardened shake with fear. And this was only the beginning. Back on the Emperor Os received the news of the defeat. His 4 eyes went wide with shock. No enemy had ever destroyed so many ships in a single battle. "Send more ships," he commanded. "Send all of them if necessary. These humans must be crushed." His advisors looked at each other nervously, but they obeyed. The Empire mobilized for total war. They did not understand what they were doing. They did not realize that they were not starting a war. They were starting their own extinction. The news of the Battle of New Hope spread across the galaxy like fire through dry grass. Species that had lived in fear of the Empire for thousands of years listened to the reports with disbelief. How could humans destroy nearly 400 warships in a single battle? It seemed impossible. But it was only the beginning. In the months that followed, the Empire threw everything they had at the human colonies in Sector 7. They sent fleet after fleet, thousands of ships carrying millions of soldiers. They believed that their numbers would overwhelm the humans eventually. They were wrong about that too. Admiral James Wright stood on the bridge of the UHN Defiance, the flagship of the United Human Navy's Third Fleet. He was an older man with gray hair and scars on his face from battles long past. He had been fighting since he was 17 years old, first against other humans in the last Earth War, then against pirates in the outer colonies, now against the. He watched the holographic display in front of him. Red dots showed the approaching fleet. There were 2,000 ships this time, the largest force that had ever assembled for a single battle. His own fleet had only 300 ships. Lieutenant Commander Park approached him. She was young but capable. Her eyes showed concern. "Admiral, they outnumber us almost 7-1. Command is asking if we want reinforcements." Wright shook his head. "No, we have enough." Park looked at him like he had lost his mind. "Sir, with respect, how is 300 ships enough against 2,000? The Admiral turned to face her. His eyes were calm, almost peaceful. "Lieutenant Commander, do you know why humans are still alive?" Park shook her head. "Because we learned something very important very early in our history. Numbers do not win wars. Will wins wars. Strategy wins wars. The willingness to sacrifice everything for victory wins wars." He turned back to the display. "They have numbers. We have something better." "What do we have, sir?" Wright smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a predator about to spring a trap. "We have 10,000 years of learning how to kill things bigger than us." The Battle of Crimson Nebula, as it came to be known, lasted for 3 days. They believed they would crush the human fleet in hours. They flew straight at the human ships, confident in their superior numbers and firepower. They did not expect the humans to retreat. Admiral Wright pulled his fleet back into the nebula itself. They followed, eager for the kill. They did not realize they were being led into a trap. The Crimson Nebula was filled with gas and dust that played tricks with sensors. The ships could not coordinate properly. Their communications were disrupted. Their targeting systems gave false readings. But the humans had prepared for this. They had spent months mapping every part of the nebula. They had placed beacons that only their ships could read. They knew exactly where they were at all times while the stumbled blind. The humans did not try to fight the entire fleet at once. Instead, they broke into small groups. They struck quickly and then disappeared into the gas clouds. They attacked isolated ships. They cut supply lines. They destroyed repair vessels. The commander, Grand Admiral, grew frustrated. His ships were dying one by one. He could not find the enemy. Every time he sent ships to investigate an attack, they were ambushed. Every time he tried to regroup, the humans struck from a different direction. On the second day, Or decided to pull his fleet out of the nebula and regroup in open space. He gave the order for all ships to retreat to a rally point beyond the nebula's edge. But when his ships tried to leave, they found humans waiting for them. Wright had positioned his fastest ships along every exit route. As the confused and scattered vessels emerged from the nebula, they were met with missiles and energy weapons. By the end of the third day, the fleet had been reduced to less than 400 ships. Or himself was killed when his flagship was destroyed by a concentrated attack from 12 human cruisers. The survivors fled back to space with another tale of defeat. Emperor Os could not believe the reports. 2,000 ships, gone, destroyed by a force less than a quarter of their size. How was this possible? He summoned his war council. His top generals and admirals gathered in the imperial palace They stood in a circle around a holographic map of the galaxy. Red marked territory. Blue marked human territory. More blue had appeared on the map recently. "Explain this to me," the Emperor demanded. "How are these creatures defeating us? Our technology is superior. Our numbers are greater. Our warriors have conquered thousands of worlds. How are humans doing this?" War Master OK, who had survived the Battle of New Hope, stepped forward. His gray skin was darker now by burns from the battle. He had lost one of his 4 eyes. "Emperor," he said, his voice heavy with shame, "the humans are not like any enemy we have faced. They do not fight like others. They do not follow the rules of war." "What do you mean?" Os asked. "They do not care about honor. They do not care about fair combat. They use tricks and traps. They attack supply lines instead of battle fleets. They strike at night when our crews are resting. They spread false information to confuse us." He paused and looked down at the floor. "And they never stop. Our warriors fight until they are tired. Then they rest. The humans have crews that work in shifts. Their ships fight around the clock without pause. When our crews sleep, theirs attack. When we try to repair our ships, they bomb our repair stations." Another voice spoke up. It was Chief Scientist, the head of military research. "There is something else, Emperor. Something perhaps more troubling." Os turned his 4 eyes to the scientist. "Speak." "We captured some human soldiers in the early battles. We studied them, interrogated them." His voice trembled slightly. "What we found was disturbing." "Go on." "Their bodies produce chemicals when they are in danger. Chemicals that make them stronger, faster, and more resistant to pain. They call this the fight or flight response. But unlike most species, humans can choose to override the flight part. They can force themselves to stay and fight even when every instinct tells them to run." The scientist pulled up a holographic display showing human brain scans. "Their minds are also unusual. They can form emotional bonds with machines, with ideas, even with abstract concepts like duty or honor. A human soldier will die for their flag. Not the physical flag itself, but what it represents. They will sacrifice themselves for symbols." "That is foolish," one of the generals said. "No," replied. "It is terrifying, because it means you cannot break them through normal means. Destroying their ships does not destroy their will to fight. Killing their leaders does not end their resistance. They simply find new ships and new leaders and keep coming." He looked directly at the Emperor. "And there is one more thing, perhaps the most dangerous thing of all." "What?" "Humans adapt. They learn from every defeat. They study their enemies and find weaknesses. In just a few months of fighting, they have already figured out how to defeat our shields. They have developed new weapons specifically designed to destroy our ships. They are getting better at fighting us faster than we are getting better at fighting them." Silence fell over the War Council. Even Emperor Os seemed troubled, but he was too proud to admit that he had made a mistake. The Empire did not retreat. The Empire did not surrender. They conquered or they died. "We will send more ships," he declared. "We will send our entire fleet if necessary, every ship in the Empire, every soldier. We will drown these humans in bodies until they can fight no more." Emperor Chief Scientist said quietly, "That is what they want." Os turned his angry gaze on the scientist. "What do you mean?" "The humans are not trying to defeat us quickly. They are trying to bleed us. Every battle costs us more than it costs them. They are draining our resources while building up their own. If we send everything we have and lose—" He did not finish the sentence. But everyone in the room understood. If they sent their entire military and lost, there would be nothing left to protect nothing left to defend the Empire. The Emperor considered this for a moment. Then he shook his head. "We are the Empire. We have conquered 4,000 worlds. We will not be defeated by apes who only left their planet 3 centuries ago." He turned to his War Council. "Prepare the Grand Fleet, every ship, every soldier. We will go to human space ourselves. I will lead the attack personally. We will find there and burn it to ash. When Earth is gone, the humans will have nothing left to fight for." The council members looked at each other nervously, but none dared speak against the Emperor. He had made his decision. The Grand Fleet would sail. Meanwhile, back in human space, preparations of a different kind were being made. In a secret facility deep beneath the surface of Mars, the most brilliant minds in human civilization gathered. Scientists, engineers, strategists, and soldiers worked together on something called Project Endurance. Director stood before a massive holographic display. She was in her 50s, with silver hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. She had been leading Project Endurance for the past 20 years, ever since the Galactic Council first warned humanity that they would eventually face a threat like the "Report," she said. Doctor, the lead weapons designer, stepped forward. "The new shield breakers are performing beyond expectations. We have improved energy efficiency by 40% since the Battle of Crimson Nebula. They have no idea what we are capable of." General, head of military strategy, spoke next. "Our intelligence network reports that they are preparing to send their Grand Fleet, every ship they have. The Emperor himself will lead them." Nodded. "How many ships?" "Current estimates are 50,000 warships, plus support vessels, troop transports, and supply ships. Total fleet size may exceed 100,000 vessels." A murmur went through the room. 100,000 ships. Even with their recent victories, humanity had only about 2,000 warships. But did not look worried. She smiled. "So the Emperor is finally taking us seriously. Good." She pressed a button on her control panel. The holographic display changed to show a map of human territory. "They think they know where Earth is," she said. "They are wrong. The coordinates in their databases are fake. We planted false information decades ago." She pressed another button. Red lines appeared on the map, showing the route the fleet would take. "They will come through the system. It is the only route that makes sense given where they think Earth is located. We have been preparing that system for 20 years." The display zoomed in on the system. It looked empty, just a yellow sun surrounded by a few dead planets and asteroid belts. "The system is a trap," explained. "The asteroids are hollowed out and filled with weapons platforms. The dead planets have underground bases with thousands of fighter craft. The space between worlds is seeded with mines that are invisible to sensors." She looked around the room at her colleagues. "When the Grand Fleet arrives, they will find themselves surrounded by weapons on all sides. They will have walked into the largest ambush in galactic history. General frowned. Even so, 50,000 warships is an enormous force. Can we really destroy them all? Pressed another button. The display changed again, showing a new weapon. It was shaped like a spear, long and slender and black. This is the Genesis Lance. We have built 300 of them. Each one can punch through any shield and destroy any ship with a single shot. They have never seen anything like them. They have no defense against them. She turned off the display. But weapons alone will not win this war. They are coming with everything they have. If they fail here, their empire will be defenseless. They know this. They will fight with the desperation of a dying animal. Then how do we defeat them? Asked Doctor. Walked to the window of the underground facility. Through the reinforced glass, she could see rows of human soldiers training for combat. Young men and women preparing to fight and die for their species. We defeat them the same way humans have always defeated enemies who outnumbered us. We will outthink them. We will outlast them. We will outfight them. And when they finally understand that they cannot win, we will offer them a choice. She turned back to face the room. They can surrender or they can die. There is no third option. General looked uncomfortable. Director, offering surrender is not standard procedure. The council recommended complete elimination of the threat. Shook her head. The council is afraid. They want the destroyed because they fear them. But humans are not afraid, and we do not commit genocide. She walked back to the center of the room. The Empire has conquered thousands of worlds. Many of those worlds have populations who hate their rulers. If we destroy them completely, those worlds will fall into chaos. Wars will break out. Billions will die. She paused. But if we defeat thee and offer them peace, we can reshape their empire. We can free the conquered worlds. We can create alliances. We can build something better than what exists now. Doctor frowned. They will never accept peace. They are too proud. The Emperor is too proud, corrected. But the Emperor is just one man. Empires are made of people. Regular people who want to live, who want their children to grow up in peace. If we show them that resistance is useless but surrender means survival, many will choose survival. She looked around the room one more time. That is what makes us human. We do not just destroy, we build. We do not just conquer, we create. When this war is over, we will not be remembered for how many we killed. We will be remembered for how we treated them after we won. The room was silent for a moment. Then General nodded slowly. Very well, Director. We will prepare for both outcomes, total victory or negotiated peace. Either way, they will learn why the galaxy warned them not to challenge us. Smiled, they were warned. They did not listen. Now they will learn. 2 months later, the Grand Fleet entered human space. 100,000 ships carrying 50 million soldiers, led by Emperor Os himself. They were heading toward a system where they thought they would find Earth. They were heading toward the greatest ambush in galactic history. They were heading toward the end of their empire. And they had no idea. The Grand Fleet emerged from hyperspace like a swarm of angry insects. 100,000 ships spread across the darkness of the system. Their metal hulls reflected the light of the yellow sun. Their weapons charged with enough power to destroy planets. Emperor Os stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion. It was the largest ship in the fleet, 2 kilometers long, bristling with weapons, protected by shields that could withstand nuclear explosions. It had never been damaged in battle. It had never needed repairs from combat. The Emperor looked at the holographic display showing the system ahead. According to intelligence, Earth was located on the 3rd planet from the Sun. The blue world that was home to the human species. The world he had come to destroy. Status report, he commanded. His fleet admiral approached. She was one of the few who had fought humans and survived. Her gray skin was marked with scars from the Battle of Crimson Nebula. All ships are in position, Emperor. The fleet is ready to advance. Our sensors show no enemy vessels in the system. As frowned. No vessels, none at all. None that we can detect, Emperor. The humans may have fled when they saw our fleet approaching. The Emperor did not believe that. Humans did not flee. Every report from the war proved that. They were stubborn creatures who fought even when victory was impossible. Something is wrong, he said. They should be here defending there. Perhaps they know they cannot win, suggested. Perhaps they have accepted their fate. As shook his head. No, humans never accept fate. They fight against it. They rage against it. That is what makes them dangerous. He turned to his communications officer. Open a channel to all ships. Tell them to proceed with extreme caution. Full sensor sweeps. I want to know about everything in this system. The order was sent. The Grand Fleet began to move forward slowly, their sensors scanning everything around them. For the first hour, nothing happened. The ships advanced through empty space. They passed asteroid fields and dead moons. They saw no sign of human presence. Then the first mine exploded. It was invisible until it detonated. A burst of energy that tore through the shields of a cruiser like paper. The ship was destroyed instantly. Its crew of 2,000 never knew what hit them. Before anyone could react, more mines exploded. Hundreds of them. They had been floating in space for years, waiting for this moment, waiting for the to come. The Grand Fleet fell into chaos. Ships tried to change course to avoid the deadly weapons, but the mines were everywhere. No matter which direction they turned, more explosions followed. In the first 10 minutes, over 1,000 ships were destroyed or crippled. Crews screamed as their vessels were torn apart. Escape pods launched into space, only to be caught in more explosions. What is happening? Emperor Os demanded. Where are these weapons coming from? Was pale, her 4 eyes were wide with fear. They were waiting for us, Emperor. The entire system is a trap. Before the Emperor could respond, the asteroid fields came alive. The rocks that had seemed dead and empty opened like flowers. Inside were weapons platforms, thousands of them. They had been hidden for decades, waiting for this moment. Now they activated and began firing. Energy beams lanced through space. Missiles launched by the hundreds. The Grand Fleet, which had been advancing in tight formation, was caught in a crossfire from all directions. Then the planets attacked. From the dead world they had thought was Earth, swarms of fighter craft emerged. They came from underground hangars buried deep beneath the surface. 30,000 human fighters, each one piloted by someone who had trained their entire life for this battle. They hit the fleet like a storm. They were small and fast and hard to hit. They slipped between the larger warships, targeting weak points, engine pods, shield generators, sensor arrays. They had never faced an enemy like this. Their tactics were designed for battles against other large fleets. They had no strategy for fighting thousands of tiny craft that refused to engage in direct combat. Pull back, Emperor Os ordered. We need to regroup. But pulling back was not possible. The way they had come was now blocked by more mines. The humans had closed the trap behind them. Admiral Wright watched the battle from the bridge of the UHN Defiance. His fleet of 2,000 warships had been waiting on the far side of the system, hidden by sensor jamming technology. Now it was time to join the fight. Signal all ships, he said calmly. Begin Phase 2. The human warships emerged from hiding. They formed into attack groups and advanced toward the confused and scattered fleet. But they did not attack randomly. They had a plan. Every ship knew its role. Every captain knew exactly which enemy vessels to target and in what order. The Genesis lances fired for the first time. 300 weapons, each one capable of destroying any ship with a single shot. They targeted the largest vessels first, the command ships, the carriers, the heavy battleships. The black spears of energy punched through shields like they did not exist. They carved through armor and hull and everything inside. One by one, the great ships of the Empire exploded. Emperor As watched his flagships display with growing horror. Red markers disappeared by the thousands. His beautiful grand fleet, the pride of the Empire, was being destroyed. "How is this possible?" he whispered. "We had 100,000 ships. How can they be defeating us?" "Emperor," said, her voice shaking, "we must retreat. If we stay here, we will be destroyed completely." "Retreat to where?" As demanded. "They have blocked every exit. They have trapped us here." As if in answer to his words, a new communication came through. A human face appeared on his screen. It was Director, broadcasting from the UHN Defiance. "Emperor As," she said. Her voice was calm and steady. "I am Director of the United Human Defense Force. You have entered a trap from which there is no escape. Your fleet is being destroyed. You have approximately 4 hours before your remaining ships are eliminated." As stared at the human woman. He had never been spoken to like this. He was the emperor of he ruled 4,000 worlds. He commanded billions of soldiers. And this small creature was telling him he was defeated. "You think you have won," he said, trying to sound confident. "We still have 80,000 ships. We will fight our way out." Shook her head. "You have approximately 62,000 ships remaining, and that number is decreasing by hundreds every minute. Your fleet is in disarray. Your command structure is broken. Your weapons cannot penetrate our defenses." She leaned forward slightly. "But I am not calling to gloat, Emperor. I am calling to offer you a choice." "What choice?" "Surrender. Order your remaining ships to power down their weapons and lower their shields. In exchange, we will stop the attack. Your crews will be allowed to live. They will be taken as prisoners but will be treated humanely according to Galactic Council conventions." As laughed. It was a harsh, bitter sound. "Surrender. The Empire does not surrender. We have never surrendered in 10,000 years of history." "Then your 10,000 years of history ends today," replied. "If you continue fighting, every ship in your fleet will be destroyed. Every soldier will die. And when your grand fleet is gone, there will be nothing left to protect your—" She paused to let that sink in. "Your empire has conquered 4,000 worlds. Many of those worlds hate you. Many of them would love to see the destroyed. When your fleet is gone, how long do you think it will take before rebellions start? How long before your subject species realize they can finally be free?" As said nothing. His mind was racing. Everything she said was true. Without the grand fleet, the empire was defenseless. The subject species would rise up. The conquered worlds would revolt. Everything his ancestors had built over 10,000 years would collapse. "I will give you 1 hour to decide," said. "Surrender and live or fight and die. The choice is yours." The communication ended. As stood frozen for a long moment. Around him, his bridge crew watched with fear in their eyes. They knew what was happening. They could see the battle statistics. They knew they were losing. "Emperor," said quietly, "she is right. We cannot win this battle. If we continue fighting, we will be destroyed." "You suggest I surrender?" As turned to her with anger in his eyes. "You suggest I become the first emperor in 10,000 years to surrender to an enemy?" "I suggest we survive," replied. "Pride is worthless if we are all dead. Our people need us to live. Our empire needs us to survive." The emperor turned away from her. He walked to the window of his bridge and looked out at the battle. Explosions lit up the darkness of space. Ships burned and broke apart. Bodies floated among the wreckage. His people were dying. His soldiers were dying. His fleet was dying. And it was all his fault. The Galactic Council had warned him. Ambassador Wei had warned him. Even his own advisors had tried to warn him. But he had been too proud to listen. Too confident in power. Too sure that humans were inferior creatures who could not possibly defeat him. Now he understood. Now he finally understood what the Council had been trying to tell him. Humans were not inferior. They were different. They were adaptable. They were creative, they were relentless, and when pushed to fight, they became something that no force in the galaxy could stop. They had pushed them, and now they were paying the price. "Open a channel to the human fleet," Os said quietly. Looked at him with surprise. "Emperor." I said open a channel. His voice was heavy with defeat. "I will speak with Director." The channel was opened. His face appeared on the screen again. "Emperor," she said, "you have made a decision." "I have questions first," Os replied. "If we surrender, what happens to my people? What happens to the Empire?" "Your soldiers will be taken as prisoners. They will be held until a peace treaty is signed. Then they will be returned to your territory." "And the Empire itself?" His expression became serious. "The Empire will no longer exist as it was. You have conquered 4,000 worlds. Those worlds will be given the choice to remain with you or become independent. Most will probably choose independence." Os closed his eyes. 4,000 worlds. His ancestors had spent 10,000 years building that empire, and he would be the one to lose it all. "What will be left?" he asked. Your original territory. The worlds where the people actually live, not the worlds you have conquered and enslaved. You will be reduced, yes, but you will survive." "And if I refuse, if I continue fighting?" His face showed no emotion. "Then you will be destroyed, not just your fleet, not just your empire, your species. We will hunt down every ship, every station, every colony. We will erase you from the galaxy so completely that in 1,000 years, no one will remember you existed." She paused. "That is what the Galactic Council recommended. They want you eliminated. I am offering you a different choice. Survival." "Why?" Os asked. "Why would you show mercy to an enemy who wanted to destroy you?" Smiled slightly. It was a sad smile. "Because that is what makes us human. We have the power to destroy you. We could wipe out your species and no one in the galaxy would stop us. But having the power to do something does not mean we should do it." She gestured at the window behind her where the battle still raged. "Every who dies in this battle is someone's child, someone's parent, someone's friend. They have families waiting for them at home. They have lives they want to live. We do not hate them. We do not even hate you, Emperor. We just want to live in peace." She leaned forward. "Give your people a chance to live. Give them a future. That is worth more than pride. That is worth more than 10,000 years of history." Os was silent for a long time. His bridge crew watched him, waiting for his decision. The fate of the species hung in the balance. Finally, the Emperor spoke. "I, Os, Emperor of the, hereby order all vessels to cease fire and lower shields." His voice was heavy with grief. "We surrender to the united human forces. May our ancestors forgive me." He ended the communication and sat down in his command chair. Around him, his officers began transmitting the surrender order to the fleet. One by one, ships stopped fighting. Their weapons went silent. Their shields dropped. The battle was over. Humans had won. In the human fleet, crews celebrated. After months of war, after thousands of battles, they had finally achieved total victory. The Grand Fleet was defeated. The threat to human civilization was ended. But Admiral Wright did not celebrate. He stood on the bridge of his ship and watched the vessels power down. He felt no joy, only relief that the killing could finally stop. "Signal the fleet," he said quietly. "Begin rescue operations. Priority is recovering escape pods and lifeboats. I want every survivor we can find." Lieutenant Commander Park looked at him with surprise. "Sir, they are the enemy." "They were the enemy," Wright corrected. "Now they are prisoners, and we will treat them with dignity and respect." He turned to face her. "That is what separates us from conquerors, Lieutenant Commander. We do not become monsters to defeat monsters." The rescue operations began. Human ships moved through the wreckage, picking up survivors. Medical teams treated injured soldiers regardless of species. Food and water were provided to those who needed it. The prisoners could not understand it. They had been taught that humans were weak, primitive creatures. They had expected to be tortured or killed. Instead, they were given medical care and warm beds and food. Many of them began to question everything they had been told about humans, everything they had been told about the war, everything they had been told about their own empire. And in that questioning, seeds were planted, seeds of doubt about the old ways, seeds of hope for something new. The war was over, but the real work was just beginning. The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was full once again, but this time, the atmosphere was completely different from the last gathering. Species that had sat in fear now sat in amazement. Ambassadors who had expected to attend a memorial for human civilization instead witnessed something they never thought they would see. The surrender of the Empire. Emperor As stood in the center of the hall. He was no longer proud. His gray skin had turned pale. His 4 eyes looked at the floor. Behind him stood a guard of human soldiers, not as captors but as escorts. They treated him with respect despite everything he had done. Ambassador Wei stood across from him. She held a document in her hands, the agreement that would end the war and reshape the galaxy. Emperor As, Wei said. Her voice was clear and carried to every corner of the hall. Do you accept the terms of this treaty? Do you agree to release all conquered worlds from rule? Do you agree to pay reparations for the damages caused by your invasion? Do you agree to limit your military forces and never again wage offensive war? As raised his head slowly. He looked at the human woman who had defeated his entire empire. Then he looked around the hall at the representatives of 147 species. Many of them had been conquered Many of them had lost family and friends to aggression. He saw no sympathy in their eyes, only satisfaction that the conquerors were finally being brought low. I accept, he said quietly. Wei nodded. Then, by the authority granted to me by the United Human Government and recognized by the Galactic Council, I declare the human war officially ended. The Treaty of is now in effect. The hall erupted in cheers. Species that had lived under rule for centuries embraced each other with tears of joy. Others simply sat in stunned silence, unable to believe that the nightmare was finally over. Elder of the rose from his seat. Despite his age, his voice was strong. The Galactic Council recognizes the heroism and restraint shown by humanity in this conflict. When given the choice between vengeance and peace, they chose peace. When given the opportunity to destroy the completely, they chose mercy. He looked at Ambassador Wei with deep respect. The Council warned the not to challenge humanity. They did not listen. Now the galaxy has witnessed why we gave that warning. But more importantly, we have witnessed why humanity deserves to be counted among the great civilizations of the galaxy. He bowed his head. On behalf of the Galactic Council, I welcome humanity to full membership in our organization. May this be the beginning of a new era of peace and cooperation. More cheering followed. Human diplomats were surrounded by members of other species who wanted to shake their hands, or tentacles, or whatever appendages they had. After centuries of being treated as a young and unimportant civilization, humanity had earned respect. But not everyone was happy. In the darker corners of the galaxy, former subjects were preparing for revenge. They had suffered under rule for generations. They had seen family members killed, their resources stolen, their cultures destroyed. And now that they were weakened, they saw an opportunity. High Speaker of the Federation approached Ambassador Wei after the ceremony. Ambassador, she said quietly, I must warn you. My intelligence service has detected movements among the former subject worlds. Some of them are not satisfied with the treaty. They want the destroyed completely. Wei nodded. She had expected this. Which species? They are the most active. They lost their entire to the 3,000 years ago. They have been planning revenge ever since. Now they see their chance. Wei thought for a moment. They were a warrior species known for their brutality. If they attacked the weakened, it would start another war, more death, more suffering, and possibly the complete extinction of the people. "Where are they now?" she asked. "Their fleet is gathering near the Nexus system. Our estimates suggest they have about 10,000 warships. Not enough to have threatened the before, but more than enough now." Wei turned to look at Emperor As. He was being led out of the hall by his human escorts. He looked broken, defeated. He had lost his empire, his power, and his pride. But he was still alive. His people were still alive. She had promised them safety if they surrendered. She intended to keep that promise. "Thank you for the information, High Speaker," she said. "Humanity will handle this." A look surprised. "You will protect them after what they did to you." "We offered them peace. They accepted. That makes them our responsibility." Wei smiled slightly. "Besides, the galaxy needs to understand that when humans make a promise, we keep it. That applies to our enemies as much as our friends." 2 weeks later, the human Third Fleet arrived at the Nexus system. Admiral Wright stood on the bridge of the Defiance once again, looking at the massed warships of the fleet. 10,000 ships filled with warriors who wanted blood, who had been waiting 3,000 years for this moment, who would not be easily turned away. "Open a channel to the flagship," Wright ordered. A moment later, a face appeared on the screen. There were reptilian creatures with scales of deep red and eyes like burning coals. This one wore the armor of a war chief, covered in medals and decorations. "I am War Chief Al of the Vengeance Fleet," he said. His voice was harsh, full of hatred. "Humans, you have no business here. Stand aside. Our quarrel is not with you." "I am Admiral James Wright of the United Human Navy," Wright replied calmly. "And you are in violation of the treaty of. They are under human protection. You will disperse your fleet and return to your territory." Al laughed. It was an ugly sound. "Protection? You protect the creatures who murdered billions of my people, who who enslaved us for 3,000 years. "I understand your anger," Wright said. "What they did to your people was wrong. It was evil. And they will pay for it through reparations and reforms. But genocide is not justice, War Chief. It is just more evil." Easy words from someone who has not suffered as we have suffered. Al leaned forward, his eyes burning with fury. "Step aside, human, or we will go through you." Wright shook his head. "That is not going to happen. The fleet will stand down or the fleet will be destroyed. There is no third option." For a long moment the two commanders stared at each other. Then Al smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. "You defeated them with tricks and traps. We are not so foolish. We have studied your tactics. We know your weaknesses. You cannot defeat us the same way." Wright almost laughed. The thought they understood human tactics because they had studied one battle. They had no idea. "War Chief," he said, "they had 100,000 ships. We destroyed them in a single battle. You have 10,000. Do you really think you have a chance?" We do not fear death." "Neither do we," Wright's voice hardened. "But we do not seek it either. We fight to protect, not to destroy. You fight for revenge, and revenge makes you blind. It makes you stupid. It will get your people killed for nothing." He leaned forward. "They are broken. Their empire is gone. Their power is shattered. You have already won, War Chief. Your people are finally free after 3,000 years. Take that victory and go home. Build a new future instead of drowning in the past." Al was silent for a moment. His eyes flickered with something that might have been doubt, but then his face hardened again. "Words, just words. They taught us that words mean nothing. Only power matters, only force." He bared his teeth. "If you will not stand aside, then we will destroy you and the both." Wright sighed. He had hoped to avoid more bloodshed, but some people could only learn through pain. "Very well," he said. "You have made your choice." He ended the communication and turned to his bridge crew. "Battle stations. Signal the fleet to prepare for combat." The Battle of Nexus was over in 3 hours. They fought bravely. They fought with all the hatred and fury that had been building for 3,000 years, but bravery and fury were not enough against human tactics and technology. Wright did not try to destroy the fleet. Instead, he disabled it. His ships targeted engines and weapon systems, leaving hulls intact. His fighters swarmed vessels and knocked out their shields without killing crews. When it was over, 8,000 ships drifted helplessly in space. 2,000 had been destroyed because they refused to stop fighting even when disabled. The rest were captured. The human fleet had lost only 40 ships against 10,000. War Chief Al was brought aboard the Defiance in chains. He expected to be executed. Instead, he was taken to a conference room where Admiral Wright was waiting with food and water. "Sit down," Wright said. "Eat something, you look terrible." Al stared at him. "Why do you not kill me? I would have killed you." "I know." Wright poured 2 glasses of water and pushed one across the table. "That is the difference between us. You fight to destroy, we fight to protect. Even when we win, we try to save as many lives as possible, even enemy lives. That is weakness." "No, that is strength." Wright sat down across from the war chief. "It takes no strength to kill an enemy. Any animal can do that. Real strength is choosing not to kill when you have the power to do so. Real strength is showing mercy to those who would not show mercy to you." Al was quiet for a long time. He drank the water, he ate some of the food. Finally, he spoke. "My people have dreamed of revenge for 3,000 years. It was all we had, all that kept us going during the dark times under rule." He looked at Wright with something like confusion. "What do we have now? If not revenge, what is left?" "Freedom," Wright replied. "Real freedom. The freedom to build something new instead of tearing down something old. The freedom to create instead of destroy." He stood up and walked to the window. Outside, ships floated silently, their crews waiting to learn their fate. "Your people have spent 3,000 years under the heel of the 3,000 years of suffering and slavery. But now that is over. You can choose what comes next." He turned back to face Al. "You can spend the next 3,000 years fighting and dying for revenge against an enemy that is already defeated, or you can spend it building a civilization that your children and will be proud of." Al's eyes narrowed. "You would let us go after we attacked you?" "We would let you go," Wright confirmed. "Your ships will be repaired. Your crews will be freed. You can return to your territory with no punishment except a warning." "What warning?" Wright's face became serious. "The same warning we gave the do not threaten peace. Do not attack those under human protection. If you do, we will return. And next time we will not be so gentle." He walked to the door of the conference room. "Think about what I said, War Chief. You have a chance to be more than a warrior fighting ancient battles. You can be a leader who builds a better future." He left Al alone with his thoughts. 3 days later, the fleet departed the Nexus system. Their ships had been repaired as promised. Their crews had been freed. They returned to space in confusion and shame. But something had changed. War Chief Al spoke to his people when he returned. He told them about his conversation with Admiral Wright. He told them about human mercy. He told them about the choice that lay before them. "For 3,000 years, we have been warriors of revenge," he said. "We have defined ourselves by our hatred of but they are broken now. Our revenge means nothing when there is nothing left to take revenge against." He looked out at the gathered crowd. Millions were watching him on screens across their territory. "The humans showed us something today. They showed us that strength is not about killing. It is about choosing. They chose to spare us when they could have destroyed us. They chose mercy when they had every right to demand justice." He paused. "I think we should learn from them. I think we should become something more than warriors of revenge. I think we should build a civilization that will last long after they are forgotten." The crowd was silent. Then slowly, voices began to rise in agreement. Not all of them. Some would never forgive some would carry their hatred to the grave. But many others saw the wisdom in Al's words. They were tired of fighting, tired of hatting, tired of defining themselves by ancient wounds. They began to change, slowly at first, then faster. They put aside their weapons and picked up tools. They stopped training for war and started building for peace. And across the galaxy, other species watched and learned. The humans had shown them something new, a different way of being powerful, a kind of strength that did not require destruction, a kind of victory that did not require annihilation. The galaxy would never be the same. Back on Earth, Director watched the news reports from the Nexus system. She saw the fleet departing peacefully. She saw War Chief Al's speech to his people. She saw the beginning of something that might one day become real and lasting peace. She smiled and poured herself a glass of wine. "We did it," she said quietly. "We actually did it." General stood beside her. They could still cause trouble in the future. They have not forgotten their hatred completely. "No," agreed, "but they have started to question it. That is more than they have done in 3,000 years. Change takes time, General. Seeds planted today will grow into forests tomorrow." She looked out the window at the night sky. Somewhere out there, the stars held countless worlds filled with beings who were just now learning what humanity could be. "We came to the galaxy as children," she said, "young and weak and full of fear, but we grew up. We learned. We became something no one expected." She raised her glass in a silent toast. "We became the ones who protect. We became the ones who show mercy. We became the ones who give others hope." She drank and set the glass down. "That is what it means to be human." 100 years had passed since the human war. The galaxy was a different place now. Old empires had fallen and new ones had risen. Species that had been enemies for thousands of years now worked together in peace. Trade routes stretched across the stars, carrying goods and knowledge and hope. And at the center of it all stood humanity. The Great Hall of the Galactic Council had been rebuilt and expanded. 212 species now held seats, including many that had once been too small or weak to have a voice. The humans had changed the rules. Now every species, no matter how minor, could speak and be heard. Ambassador Sarah walked through the hall with her grandfather's journal in her hands. Her grandmother had been Wei, the famous ambassador who had warned the all those years ago. Sarah had grown up hearing stories about the war, about the victory, about the hard work of building peace afterward. Now she was the human ambassador to the Galactic Council. She was here to witness something historic. "Ambassador," called a voice behind her. Sarah turned to see a tall figure approaching. Gray skin, 4 eyes, but this one wore the robes of a diplomat, not the armor of a warrior. "Ambassador Orr," Sarah said with a smile, "I did not expect to see you here today." Orr returned the smile. It still looked strange on a face, but they were getting better at it. "I would not miss this for anything. My people have waited 100 years for this moment." The two ambassadors walked together toward the center of the hall. Around them, representatives of countless species took their seats. The hall buzzed with anticipation. "How are things on the?" Sarah asked. "Better than they have been in a very long time," Orr replied. "The reforms are working. Our people are learning to live without conquest. It is not easy. Many still remember the old ways, but the young ones, they do not carry the same anger. They want something different." He glanced at Sarah with gratitude in his 4 eyes. "Your people gave us that chance. When you could have destroyed us, you showed mercy. We have not forgotten." Sarah nodded. "That is what my grandmother always said. The true test of a civilization is not how it treats its friends. It is how it treats its enemies when they are at its mercy." They reached the center of the hall and took their seats. The ceremony was about to begin. Elder, the new leader of the, rose to speak. He was the grandson of Elder, who had tried so hard to warn the about humans 100 years ago. had died peacefully at the age of 900, content in the knowledge that his warnings had helped prevent something terrible. Members of the Galactic Council said, "We gather here today to celebrate a historic moment. For the first time in galactic history, two species that were once at war will join together in a formal alliance." He gestured toward the center platform. "Please welcome the representatives of the United Human Federation and the Republic." Sarah stood and walked to the platform. From the other side of the hall, a female approached. She was Supreme Chancellor Rhea, the elected leader of the new Republic. They met in the center and faced each other. The hall fell silent. 100 years ago, Rhea said, "my people attacked yours. We believed we were strong and you were weak. We believed we would conquer your worlds and enslave your people." She bowed her head. "We were wrong about everything. Your people were not weak. And more importantly, your strength was not measured in ships or weapons. It was measured in your hearts." She looked up at Sarah. "When you defeated us, you could have taken revenge. You could have destroyed us the way we wanted to destroy you. Instead, you offered us something we did not deserve: mercy, forgiveness, a chance to become something better than we were." She reached into her robe and pulled out a small object. It was a piece of metal from a warship, twisted and burned from the battle of. "I carry this with me always," she said. "It reminds me of what my people were: conquerors, destroyers, monsters." She held it up for everyone to see. "But it also reminds me of what we can become, because the humans believed we could change. They believed in us when no one else did, not even ourselves." She turned to face the Galactic Council. "That is why I am here today, to announce that the Republic formally requests to join the Human Alliance. We wish to stand beside the species that showed us what true strength means." A murmur went through the hall. This was unprecedented. A former enemy asking to become an ally, a conqueror asking to serve. Sarah stepped forward. "On behalf of the United Human Federation, I accept your request. From this day forward, humanity and the stand together, not as conquerors, not as enemies, but as partners, as friends." She extended her hand. Rhea took it. Their grip was strong and warm. The hall erupted in applause. Species that had once lived in fear of both humans and now celebrated their union. It was proof that even the deepest wounds could heal. Even the oldest hatreds could be overcome. After the ceremony, Sarah walked through the gardens outside the Great Hall. The gardens had been designed by human and alien landscapers working together. Plants from 100 worlds grew side by side, creating a rainbow of colors and shapes. She found a bench and sat down. The journal was still in her hands. She opened it to a page marked with a ribbon. Her grandmother's handwriting filled the page. The words were from the day after the battle of. "We won today. The Grand Fleet is destroyed. Emperor As has surrendered. The war is over. But the real work is just beginning. Anyone can win a war. The hard part is winning the peace. We must show the galaxy that humanity is more than just warriors. We must show them that we are builders, healers, teachers." The believed that power comes from conquest, from taking what belongs to others. They were wrong. Real power comes from lifting others up, from helping the weak become strong, from turning enemies into friends. That is what we must do now, not just but with all species who have been hurt by war and oppression. We must show them a different way, a better way. We must become the species that the galaxy hopes we can be. Sarah closed the journal and looked up at the sky. Somewhere out there, ships carrying humans and dozens of other species were traveling together, exploring new worlds, building new colonies, creating a future that her grandmother could only dream of. The transformation had not been easy. There had been setbacks and disappointments. Some species still distrusted humans, some still resented their defeat. Old hatreds were slow to die. But the galaxy was better than it had been 100 years ago. That was undeniable. Wars were fewer. Trade was greater. Cooperation was becoming the norm instead of the exception. And humanity was at the center of it all, not as conquerors or rulers but as examples, as proof that power and compassion could exist together, that strength did not require cruelty, that victory did not require destruction. Sarah heard footsteps approaching. She looked up to see War Chief Al walking toward her. He was old now, his red scales faded to orange with age, but his eyes still burned with fire. "Ambassador," he said, "may I join you?" "Of course, War Chief." Sarah moved over to make room on the bench. "I was just thinking about my grandmother." Al sat down heavily. His joints were not what they used to be. "Ambassador Wei, I never met her but I heard many stories. She was a remarkable woman." "She was," Sarah smiled. "She believed that everyone deserves a second chance, even enemies, even monsters." Al was quiet for a moment. "I was a monster once. I wanted to destroy them completely. I wanted to bathe in their blood. Your Admiral Wright stopped me." He chuckled softly. "I hated him for it at the time. I thought he was stealing my revenge. And now I understand." The old war chief looked at the garden around them. "My people have flourished in the last 100 years. We have built cities and schools and hospitals. We have raised children who know nothing of slavery or oppression. We have become a species that creates instead of destroys." He turned to face Sarah. "None of that would have happened if Wright had let me kill the. I would have gotten my revenge, yes, but at the cost of my people's future." He shook his head slowly. "Your people saw what we could become before we saw it ourselves. That is a gift I can never repay." Sarah reached out and touched his arm gently. "You repay it every day, War Chief. Every time a child learns to read, every time a scientist makes a discovery, every time your people choose hope instead of hatred. That is how you honor what happened at Nexus." Al nodded. His old eyes were wet, but he did not look away. "The Galactic Council was right to warn he said. "Humans are dangerous, but not in the way they thought. You are dangerous because you show others what they can be. You hold up a mirror and force them to see their own potential." He stood up slowly, his old bones creaking. "That is the most dangerous thing in the universe. Hope." He bowed to Sarah in the formal manner, then walked away through the garden. Sarah watched him go. Then she looked down at her grandmother's journal one more time. The last entry was from the day Wei retired. The words were faded but still readable. "Today I hand my duties to the next generation. I have done what I can. Now it is up to them to continue the work. I am often asked what I am most proud of from my time as ambassador. Most people expect me to say the victory at, or the Treaty of Peace, or some other dramatic moment. But that is not what I am most proud of. I am most proud of the small things. The child who learned to paint instead of fight, the engineer who built a hospital instead of a weapon, the refugee who found a new home after losing everything. Those are the victories that matter, not the battles won or the treaties signed, the lives changed, the futures created, the hope given to those who had none. That is what it means to be human. We do not just survive, we help others survive too. We do not just thrive, we help others thrive too." The galaxy warned the Knot to challenge us. They said survival was not guaranteed. What they did not understand is that we never wanted to destroy anyone. We just wanted everyone to have a chance to live. When I look at the galaxy today, I see that chance being taken everywhere. I see species that were once enemies now working together. I see worlds that were once dead now blooming with life. I see children who will never know war growing up in peace. That is my legacy. That is humanity's legacy. We came to the stars as children. We grew up among them. And now we are helping the galaxy grow up too. The warning was given. The challenge was accepted. And against all odds, everyone survived. Even the monsters. Especially the monsters. Because that is what humans do. We save. Sarah closed the journal and stood up. The sun was setting over the garden, painting the alien flowers in shades of gold and red. Tomorrow there would be more work to do, more conflicts to resolve, more wounds to heal. The galaxy was still a complicated place full of beings who did not always understand each other. But they were trying. That was what mattered. They were trying to be better than they were. And humanity would be there to help them, not as rulers or conquerors, not as judges or executioners, but as partners, as friends. As the species that showed the galaxy that survival was always guaranteed, as long as you were willing to reach for it. Sarah walked back toward the great hall. The lights of the building glowed warm against the darkening sky. Inside, representatives of 200 species were talking and laughing and planning for the future. The war was over, the peace was won, and the best was yet to come. Somewhere among the stars, a young child was looking up at the night sky. She had never known the old empire. She had never seen the wars. All she knew was the world her parents had built for her, a world of peace and hope. "Mother," she said, "tell me again about the humans." Her mother smiled and sat down beside her. "The humans are our friends. Long ago, before you were born, our people did a very bad thing. We tried to hurt the humans. We thought we were strong and they were weak. What happened? They stopped us, but then instead of hurting us back, they helped us. They showed us how to be better, how to be kind instead of cruel, how to build instead of destroy." The child thought about this for a moment. Why did they help us? We were bad. "Because that is what humans do," her mother said. "They believe that everyone can change, everyone can become better, even monsters like we used to be." The child nodded solemnly. Then she looked back up at the stars. "I want to meet a human someday," she said. "I want to thank them." Her mother hugged her close. "Someday you will, and I am sure they will be very proud of you." Above them, the stars stretched on forever, filled with possibilities. The galaxy was vast and ancient and complicated, but it was also getting better. One act of mercy at a time. One friendship at a time. One generation at a time. The Empire had been warned not to challenge humans. They had been told that survival was not guaranteed. What they had not been told was that the warning was not a threat. It was a promise that humanity would always fight for peace, would always choose mercy over revenge, would always believe in the possibility of change. And in the end, that promise was kept. Not just for the humans, for everyone.